Hi, I'm going to be talking. My name's Rob. I'm going to be talking about witnessing, and I've decided to take the approach of breaking this down into three different parts. First part is of my story of somebody witnessing to me. The second part is of me witnessing with my friends, and then the third part is me witnessing in the community. So to kick off with, I'll start with a story about how I first discovered witnessing, I suppose, and it was from a chap called Pastor Billy McCurry. Now, Billy McCurry had grown up in Belfast in Northern Ireland. He was one of many brothers and sisters, and one day he was in his house one evening, and there was a knock at the door. He went to the door with his father, and right then his father was gunned down before him, and Billy was just 16 years old at the time. Now, that obviously changed Billy, and he was spurred into action to avenge his father's death, and he joined a terrorist organisation called the Ulster Volunteer Force. Now, they have been in Northern Ireland for 30 years or so at the time, and over those 30 years they'd killed 500 or so, predominantly Catholics. Now, Billy joined them, became proactive in that, and after a short while, Billy was captured, charged, and sent to prison in the Maze prison for life. But God had a different plan for Billy, and on one Christmas Eve, he was moved by the story of crucifixion, and God had changed Billy's heart and put a heavy guilt on him. And finally, one day he turned to face God, repented for his sins on his knees, and he said the simple prayer of forgiveness. And as a result of that, God sent the Holy Spirit to be with Billy, and he in fact survived a number of different attacks on his life for his change of attitude since then. And many years later, Billy was released, and he works now as a pastor in a church in Lancashire and has been there for 20 years. Now, Billy was a great witness to me, and I stumbled across Billy when we went to a curry night by coincidence. So we went to a curry night with Billy McCurry, and he was touring around. I'd arrived late at the dinner prior to him doing the speech, and there was one seat left at the table, and it was sitting beside Billy by coincidence. And I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity. So we crossed the small talk off. He went and did this, over dinner. He went and did this speech, and he came and sat down beside me. And I was thinking, right, okay, I didn't really see that coming. And I said to him, did you ever find that guy that killed your father? And if so, what would you say to him? And if he was around now, what would you say to him if he knocked on your door? And he sort of averted from the first question and went on to the second, which was, if I saw that guy and he knocked on my door right now, I would invite him in and I would tell him about Jesus. And I thought that was cool. That was a profound effect on me, and that kind of kicked into gear the second phase of this, really, which is me researching what this is all about, and then me witnessing to friends. So that part two, I started to look into, I needed to kind of be convinced by this, by Christianity, by Christ, and all these kind of things. I had grown up for 18 years as a Catholic, but in my latter life I was skeptical, and I had to be convinced. And so I started to seek out some thinkers on this, and I discovered a chap called John Lennox. Now, John Lennox is a professor of maths at Oxford University, and I'd watched his lively and intellectual debates and well-researched debates with a chap called Richard Dawkins, who is also a professor within biology at Oxford University and author of the well-known bestseller The God Delusion. And these two had some pretty ferocious debates, and it was interesting. I suppose without deep diving, it's interesting to see some of the outcomes. I'd also decided to research Christianity as a whole and track down a fella called Dermot McCulloch. Now, Dermot was professor for religious studies at Oxford University, and a widely respected leader in the understanding of the history of Christianity as a whole, and he'd authored many things and done many documentaries and the like. And digging into these people and understanding what's the perspectives on it, I quickly came to realise that there wasn't any real credible answers within the science side for the origin of the universe story and the history of evolution of mankind. And in fact, what I thought might be a God v science debate, it ended up that the science could not provide the answers, and that there had to be an intelligent designer behind all of it. And so I'd taken that research back, as you would do, and consult with people. We end up having these, debates. I mean, to be honest with you, normally over a few drinks and with friends, and it goes on and what have you. And I found myself almost witnessing to my friends and convincing my friends that this must be the case. And so when you get introspective on that and you realise, actually, I'm arguing the case for God here, and I'm probably witnessing to my friends in doing so. And so that kind of led, a lot of stories intertwined, but that kind of, we moved into Macclesfield, we moved to this church, and an opportunity came up, and this is part 3, for me witnessing to the community. Now, a chap called Gordon from church stood up on the stage one day and said he was going to go out into the community and he was going to do some door-to-door knocking. And I just felt a light bulb go on. I said, I could do that. So I went straight up to him at the end of the service and said, Gordon, I've only been here a few weeks. I don't know if I'm a Christian. I'm not baptised and I'm not even a member here, so I might not really qualify. Would you mind if I come out and did this door knocking with you? And he was, very open-minded to the idea and said, yeah, sure. It sounds great. He must have, maybe he was desperate for volunteers at the time. But I thought this might be a disaster. I'll have none of the right things to say. But I did think, if this is the right thing, God will give me the words for this. And he'll take care of it. And so I had the opportunity to go out and do this. I know Gordon accompanied me himself, probably because he wanted to contain me. But I had the opportunity to go out with Gordon. It was great. And opportunity to go out with Rona. And it was in sort of watching these two people work, as it were, and talking to people on the doorstep, that I started to think, this is really good. It's really liberating. It's the right thing to do. And God really backs this. And then I had this feeling that if I'm going to go forward with this, then I need to get baptised and show I'm a believer, because that is what God has told us to do. Go out there, speak to people and get baptised. And that was the instruction. So me and my black and white thinking, thought you're either in or you're out for this. And of course, I was in. And so that's how this really came about. And so that's my witnessing story. Witnessing in the community, witnessing with my friends, but also the story of Billy McCurry and somebody witnessing to me.